With the speed of an F1 sports car, Alpine is now also taking shots at Oscar Piastri, who is considered to be pretty selfish. We know just how many feuds drivers have with each other in the teams. We've seen enough to last us a lifetime, but now a whole team has beef with one guy who has ruffled their feathers. Let's talk more about it in this video, starting with the prediction. Oscar Piastri, as you know, is going to be racing for McLaren in 2023 after the team exhausted all the ways to make their relationship with Daniel Ricciardo work. On the grid, it might look to you that Alpine's 2023 driving pair, which consists of Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, is very strong, but it's only on the grid because Gasly wasn't the team's first choice replacement for the Aston Martin-bound Fernando Alonso. On a young driver contract, the 2021 Formula 2 champion was signed to the team, and Alpine believed that this gave them the option to promote the Australian to a race seat in 2023. And all of us sitting at home watching the fabulous cars race each other were thinking the same thing. But that didn't happen because Piastri shockingly rejected Alpine's announcement that he would race for the team in 2023. And he did that on Twitter. It was later revealed that the 21-year-old had already signed a contract with McLaren around the same time that the British Grand Prix took place. What transpired after that was a long and drawn-out, not to mention highly boring, hearing with the Contract Recognition Board, which ruled that Piastri's Alpine contract didn't force him to drive with the team in 2023, which meant that he was free to join McLaren. And that's exactly what he did. Alpine team principal Otmar Szafnauer has now given an unfortunate prediction to Piastri, claiming that his selfishness is going to be a big problem for him in the long run. Next up, what the Nostradamus? Well, maybe it's going to come and bite him in the butt, but maybe the young fellow was only looking out for his future. The bitter principal didn't care about any of that when he said that species that collaborate survive. Ooh, that sounds like a threat, but we wouldn't read too much into that, considering angry people tend to say a lot of stuff they don't mean. But it did look like he did mean it when he said that species that are selfish perish. And that's true in history. He believes that's what happens in Formula 1 too. But let's see what the future brings. Otmar Szafnauer will be one salty person if Piastri becomes one of the biggest names in the sport. Given the talent, we won't be surprised. What's gonna be surprising is if he dropped dead in the middle of the race. We'd believe the Alpine team principal to be Nostradamus, or maybe something more sinister? Jokes apart, the tension between the two is palpable. Someone bring us a knife, we want to see what happens when we cut through it. The whole perish and selfish part wasn't the end, because he went on to say that they had an obligation for Oscar to either put him in their car for next year or find him a seat, a loan seat somewhere else, or he became a free agent. There's also sour grapes. If you remember, Alpine had the last laugh over McLaren in 2022 when they beat them to 4th place in the championship after they got a strong enough result at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But now look how the tables have turned. McLaren took away their best guy. Piastri was originally set to race for Williams in 2023, but now after the announcement of the shock parting of Fernando Alonso to Aston Martin over the summer break, Alpine confirmed that they planned to promote the 21-year-old straight to a 2023 race seat. That also failed, hasn't it? Szafnauer suggested that, weirdly, his team has benefited from Piastri's rejection. Grapes are sour now, aren't they? Because they're saying that they originally believed that appointing Pierre Gasly would be impossible, but as it turned out, Red Bull was reasonable in setting a price for the Frenchman's release. They suddenly seemed to think very highly of Gasly, who wasn't even their first choice, and they'd rather have the 21-year-old in the driving seat, or Alonso. Now that neither of them want to be a part of their team, the driver from Red Bull is suddenly so good good that they understand why his previous team wouldn't let go of him so easily. We know that Gasly is a very gifted driver, but considering just how ridiculous their statements look after the departure, it looks like they want to make Piastri feel bad. Moving on, something silly in the air. But he's not going to feel any kinds of bad, right? Because if he decided that, there had to be a reason. The kid was either looking out for himself or just didn't feel like the team was a right fit for him. And when he saw the window to leave, he did. And even their contract couldn't save Alpine. They even admitted that they were considering a radical move when the tensions between them and Oscar were on the rise. After a debate with the Contract Recognition Board, it was decided that Oscar Piastri was free to drive for McLaren in 2023, despite his contract with Alpine. We've all been waiting for the silly season. A whole year of Formula One racing would be incomplete without it. It may be very frustrating for the teams, but it's very exciting for the fans. As you can see from our faces, there's glee written all over it. The first trigger of that season in 2022 was Fernando Alonso, who announced that he's going to leave Alpine for Aston Martin next season during the summer break, even though his new team is much lower down in the championship than his current team. But the heart wants what it wants, and Alonso's wanted Aston Martin. Let's talk about no more youngsters. Too bad, because that started a chain reaction, and as a result of that departure, Alpine was forced to find Esteban Ocon a new partner for 2023, and quickly announced the promotion of their exciting youth driver Oscar Piastri to a race seat. It all went tumbling down for our dear Jack when their exciting youth driver outright rejected the statement that he'd be racing for them in 2023. Instead, he revealed that he had signed a contract with McLaren behind closed doors. That contract board verdict must have stung Alpine, because they'd invested a lot of time and money into developing Piastri as a young driver. And because of that, the team principal Otmar Safnauer has now revealed that the team considered shutting down their young driver program after the whole departure saga. He said that at the time, you gotta look at everything. And he and Laurent Rossi, Alpine CEO, said that they've got to consider that if they spend this money and get drivers to a certain spot and they want to go elsewhere, should they be doing this? And it makes sense, to be honest. Imagine training someone talented and polishing their skills so they'd one day prove to be an asset for your team, but they just decide that they're too good for the team, which literally made them who they are. That's gotta hurt. We also have the doubts. But the principal also revealed that while they were considering that, they're not gonna go ahead with it and would continue to be committed to the young driver program and the Alpine Academy. Because not everyone is going to turn out to be like Piastri. While the former employers are going to mourn their loss a little, the new employers of the youngster have expressed their excitement at the prospect of having a Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri partnership. They're claiming that the F3 and F2 champions have the potential to be one of the Formula One greats. We'll see them together when they race, but we have reasons to be apprehensive because partnerships like that sometimes backfire. Both of them are smart and ambitious, and they might think their partner is coming in between their dreams. Who knows what'll happen though? We just gotta wait and see. There might be some people who believe the decision to leave Alpine was a bad one, and it'll show later. But Sky F1 commentator David Croft believes Oscar Piastri's choice of McLaren over Alpine won't backfire on him, even if Alpine has a quicker car in 2023. Gearing up for his rookie season, he made his first appearance for McLaren at the Young Driver Test in Abu Dhabi, which happened recently. Things are looking good for him, but questions are being asked. Has the rookie hitched his horse to the wrong post by quitting Alpine? Lastly, not a mistake. David Croft doesn't think so when he says that he hasn't backed the wrong horse. He seemed pretty convinced when he said that Oscar, in doing what he and his management did in the summer, decided that Williams wasn't the option and McLaren was, because they were the two options for him at that time. Fernando leaving his team also complicated matters somewhat, but the decision decision had already been made, and no way was he gonna stay somewhere he didn't like, just because another driver had also left. That kinda meant it was Oscar's opening to leave too. You know, the silly season was well underway. Long term, he thinks McLaren is the better option for him because if Lando Norris does leave, then he becomes the de facto leader. And who wouldn't want that? He also thinks there's more potential with the McLaren team and the facilities they'll have when their wind tunnel comes online. Well, true. The team has won 8 Constructors' Championships during their almost 60-year history. They look like they're gearing up for a massive win. We hope you detect the sarcasm. Croft thinks that big improvements need to be found, considering their wind tunnel doesn't come online until halfway through the 2023 season. And let's not forget that they never had a faster car than Alpine in 2022. So whatever wins Piastri brings, they're gonna be all his skills. That's it from our side for today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or thoughts about Alpine firing shots at selfish Oscar Piastri, let us know in the comments below. See you in the next one.